I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro, live in our nation's capital. Thanks for being with us tonight. I had answers from White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, and he's making news right here in a moment. Ann Coulter is also on deck tonight. But first, my opening statement. If you're a cop working in a sanctuary jurisdiction, then you're being directed by left-wing liberal progressive mayors and governors to protect illegal criminals who not only violated our laws in coming here, but in addition committed crimes while here. You're being told not to share information about illegal criminals and not honor federal ICE detainers. So, you've got a decision to make. And if this is a tough one for you, and you can't figure out what your sworn obligation is, then get the hell out of law enforcement. Think back to the day you graduated from rookie school, when you got a badge and a gun. You earned the right to protect us. We trusted that you understood your mission. We were proud of you. Proud to count you in that blue wall that every day separates a civilized society from a chaotic and barbaric one. Your job? To protect the innocent, follow the truth, arrest the criminal, be true to your oath. That oath is not negotiable. It is not for sale, and neither are you. You knew this when you signed up. And no namby-pamby, bleeding heart, left-wing, socialist, political whore has the right to demand that you defy that oath. And if you don't have the courage to do what you know needs to be done, then you don't deserve to wear that badge. Take a look at what happens when you listen to these wimps, when you free the criminal wanted for deportation. All of these innocents were killed by illegals. On the right, innocent victims. The left, they're killers. Some accused, others already convicted. All of them illegals who were deported, then came back to the United States and went on to kill after they returned. There are thousands more like them. And every one of those politicians that ordered you not to cooperate with federal authorities has the blood of these innocent victims on their hands. And I hate to say this, but every one of you in law enforcement who bought into this liberal nonsense also has blood on your hands. You would never allow an American criminal to roam freely in your jurisdiction if another law enforcement agency asked you to hold them. Why change the rule and prioritize the illegal for whom there is a want? Why would you release them and not notify a fellow law enforcement agency? If you release the criminal, you guarantee a fellow officer or agent is going to be in harm's way when they go out to find that criminal. To be clear, we're not talking about, nor is anyone asking you to notify ICE about the illegal who's simply working in the field, the waitress, the babysitter, or someone cleaning a house. So what to do? You notify ICE as soon as you can, and I don't care what you have to do to get that done. If you have to do it quietly, anonymously, behind closed doors, underground, through a special hotline, email, or carrier pigeon, damn it, just do it. You instinctively understand danger. It's in your DNA. If you have an MS-13 gang member whose initiation you know requires that he beat someone to death or rape someone in front of his fellow gang members, and you don't tell ICE, you have blood on your hands. Americans have the right to know when they're in danger. Why would you treat an illegal criminal different than an American criminal? Hell, maybe law-abiding states should clear out their prisons and send their own criminals to sanctuary states. Since they're open to taking other countries' criminals, the least they can do is take ours. Can't you see that you're being used in a political tug of war? If this is a tough one for you, and you're going to start listening to the ACLU or some liberal mayor who doesn't give a damn about you, your contract, or your oath, directing that you release the wanted criminal alien out the side door, then maybe you should rethink this whole thing and go into social work. You're too damn dumb to be in law enforcement. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter. # Judge Jeanine. Joining me now is conservative author Ann Coulter. All right, Ann, good evening. What do you think?
You know what I think.
Tell me.
I always want to kiss you after your opening statements. I've never looked at it from that end, and it's a very clever point you're making. I usually look at it from the other end, and President Trump is absolutely right. He ought to withdraw all federal funding from sanctuary cities, as we always find out whenever liberals win some victory at the federal level. Very rarely, like immigration law, laws passed by Congress and signed by the president, but usually some frivolous Supreme Court decision on gay marriage, for example. That's when we're all reminded that federal law is supreme. How long ago what was the Heller case in the Supreme Court, finding an individual right to own guns? Try to get a gun in Chicago. Try to get a gun in Los Angeles, Washington or New York, whereas the day after the gay marriage decision, some poor Kentucky clerk in Kentucky is being harassed to turn over a gay marriage license.
But Ann,
so
here's the thing.
It always works this way, and I think you're right. I would add that for any cops following Jeanine's excellent advice, don't do it in the Ninth Circuit, because this would be a great case. Do it in Austin, Texas.
But Ann, my point is that it's time for them to figure out a way to alert other law enforcement, because too many people are in jeopardy. American citizens are in jeopardy. Their fellow brothers and sisters in law enforcement are in jeopardy. But anyway, I want to move on. Look, White House Correspondents' Dinner. It's a big thing now. The president has indicated President Trump is not going. What do you think, and why do you think he said that?
I'm so relieved he's not going. I want him working and not, hanging around with the enemy. He could be in danger at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But seriously, I mean, he's got to get his nominees confirmed, and it would be nice if he had a little help from Capitol Hill rather than having all the congressional Republicans and the entire bureaucracy.
Supreme Court, does he go nuclear, Ann?
I don't think he's going to need to. I don't think Gorsuch is that frightening. I mean, he's great. He's probably one of the best of the list.
Okay, so you don't think so?
But he's no Scalia.
Well,
and come on.
All right, doesn't scare you. All right, Ann Coulter, we're out of time. Thanks for being with us. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right. Earlier, I headed to the White House to meet with Press Secretary Sean Spicer. We discussed reports that certain media outlets were barred from a press gaggle yesterday. But first, I asked the press secretary about another report that said that the White House chief of staff had reached out to the FBI and asked them publicly to downplay allegations that the Trump campaign had been in frequent contact with Russian agents. I asked Spicer to set the record straight. Take a look. Let's talk about what happened with Reince Priebus and the FBI. Who initiated the phone call between Reince and the FBI?
So what happened is there was a meeting here at the White House a couple weeks ago to discuss an intelligence matter. At the end of the intelligence matter, the deputy director of the FBI approached Reince. He'd never met him before prior to the meeting. Said, "May I talk to you privately?" Explained to Reince that the story that had just come out in the New York Times talking about frequent contacts between the Trump campaign and Russian officials was not accurate, was grossly overstated, and he wanted him to know that. To which Reince replied, "Great, let's set the record straight." The deputy director at the time said, "I'll get back to you," and then called him back a few hours later and said that they didn't want to get in the process or the habit of refuting various stories that would set a bad precedent. Reince said, "Well, this is kind of weird. You've now presented me with information, and we'd like to clear our name because there were some serious and substantial charges made by the New York Times." So then they said, after a conversation with then Director Comey, that we could say with confidence that we had been briefed, and in fact that the Times story was inaccurate and grossly overstated.
Okay. Was Reince Priebus within the bounds of his job in asking the FBI to push back on what he believed was an inaccurate story?
Well, again, remember, he didn't ask them to push back in the sense that they came to us and said the story in the New York Times is false and grossly misstated. We said, great, could you set the record straight? It is ironic to me that the media, who we were trying to help get the information and get the story straight, after being falsely maligned with blind sources by the New York Times, we tried to set the record straight, and now the rest of the mainstream media is attacking us for trying to actually help get the story straight.
And then with the gaggle that happened after all of this, you know, there was a claim that the New York Times was exempted, almost in retaliation.
So what the New York Times doesn't want to tell you, the pool, which is a representation of all the different kind of outlets, there's print, online, radio, television, it rotates every day. They were not part of the pool to... That's what they don't want to tell you. So the fact of the matter is that the Associated Press, the Wires, and a couple of the other papers were part of the pool. They came and we expanded the pool to allow some additional outlets to come into the gaggle. And I think any assertion that they were banned or whatever is completely ridiculous.
So what you're saying is the gaggle was just an expansion of the pool.
That's right.
And not an elimination of the press.
No, there is a pool that is set up by the White House Correspondents Association that is representation, TV, radio, and it rotates daily who's in that pool. They tell us who's in the pool. We don't tell them. And at the end, what we did is we chose to have a gaggle and invite some additional members of the media to come and be part of it, which we have every right to do.
So John Boehner this week says he doesn't believe Obamacare is going to be repealed or replaced. First of all, is he wrong? And why is he even getting involved?
Well, everyone's got a right to their opinion. But I think the president's been very clear that he is going to repeal and replace Obamacare and replace it with something that's more affordable and gives the American people more access. You know, when you look at a state like Arizona where premium's gone up 112%, and you look at the amount of choice or lack thereof that people have, you realize that Obamacare is collapsing on its own.
Yeah, but the problem is that the Pew poll is showing that now the numbers in support of Obamacare are going up 54%.
Right, I think that it's incumbent upon us to continue to remind the American people what's going on. They were promised an Affordable Care Act, and nothing close to that is what they got. And this is something the president was very clear on during the campaign. Their premiums are going up. The amount of choice that they have has gone down. And we've got to make sure that we fulfill the president's vision, agenda, and promise to the American people to give them the health care options and prices that they were promised.
Okay, let's talk about immigration. Now, the numbers seem to indicate that President Obama deported a significant number of illegal immigrants, and President Trump is doing the same thing to keep Americans safe. Why is President Trump getting all the pushback?
Well, I don't think, I think President Obama didn't get the pushback from the American people. Number one, he also used a different set of accounting. They got credit for people at the border that they turned away. This president is actually addressing the real problem that America faces. But again, it's another promise and pledge that he made to the American people on the campaign trail, specifically that people who pose a threat to our public safety and our way of life or have a criminal record would be first and foremost the ones on his list to be deported. He's 100% following through there. During the Obama administration, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement had their hands tied. The Obama administration had one carve-out after another, one exemption after another for people that they couldn't go after. This president recognized in the interest of not only our national security, but our economic security, that we were going to untie the hands of our ICE and Custom and Border Patrol officers who are there every day trying to control the border and enforce the mission that they sought to do. And he's letting them do their job.
Well, is it a fact that President Obama did in fact deport more illegal immigrants than any president before him?
I think the way they counted it,
How
sure.
do you count it?
But again, no, because before President Obama, you actually counted people that were in this country and that were removed from this country because they weren't here legally. What happened under the Obama administration is they changed the way in which they counted deportation, meaning if you approached the border and you were turned away, that was counted as a deportation.
Well, wasn't that a catch and release?
So it was basically, you didn't even have to come over the border to be counted as being deported. If you tried to enter the country.
So they played with the numbers.
They did. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what time do you get up?
Right just before 6.
Yeah. And what time do you see the president most days?
Somewhere between 9 and 10.
Is he still in his pajamas? Does he sleep in the Oval Office?
I've never seen him. He is working nonstop.
I know he is. That's why I'm asking you.
He is trying to keep up with him is an impossible task. His commitment to making this country better, protecting it, growing jobs is unwavering. And I think he makes all of us really become inspired to do our best to fulfill his agenda.
And when you relax, what do you do?
I haven't relaxed yet, so I'll tell you when that happens.
Sean Spicer, thanks for allowing us to be part of your busy day.
Thanks, Judge.
And John Bolton on deck tonight to discuss the coming executive order on immigration and talk about high praise. Even the president loves my next guest.
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes.
CPAC Chair Matt Schlapp standing by to talk about his organization's huge week, and we'll recap the highlights. And speaking of CPAC...
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes, who have been fantastic friends and supporters, and so great when I watch them on television defending me. Nobody has a chance.
A presidential shout out from the CPAC stage. Matt Schlapp is the chair of the American Conservative Union. He's fresh off his organization's Conservative Political Action Conference. Now, the president may have been the highlight, but what a few days it was. Matt, thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Judge.
You know, I was thrilled to be there and to speak at CPAC, and I know you had some of the biggest conservatives out there.
My fellow Americans, as Black History Month 2017 comes to a close, I am very grateful for the many wonderful opportunities to honor African-American heroes, faith leaders, entrepreneurs, and the many others who changed the course of our nation. We are blessed by the lives and examples of those who have made this nation a beacon of freedom, talent, and unbreakable American spirit. This week, I had the privilege of visiting the National Museum of African American History and Culture right here in Washington, D.C. It's a new, beautiful Smithsonian museum that serves as a shining example of African Americans' incredible contributions to our culture, our society, and our history. It also tells of the great struggle for freedom and equality that prevailed against the sins of slavery and the injustice of discrimination. The work and love of the people who helped create such a masterpiece is a testament to the legacy of so many leaders it honors. I left that museum confident that together, America can overcome any challenge. There's a great quote by Muhammad Ali in the museum. "I shook up the world," he said, and that is what he did. So did leaders like Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Martin Luther King, and so many others. They shook up the world for the better because they inspired our nation to march towards justice and freedom for all. Today and every day, I pledge to continue that march so that every American, no matter his background, no matter her background, has the chance to climb that great ladder of success. It was very special to accompany Dr. Ben Carson and his family for the first time seeing the Carson exhibit. I am proud that soon he will serve in my cabinet as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. HUD has a very, very powerful meaning far beyond housing. It's about transforming our communities, about bringing back hope, and Ben will do a fantastic job. That's what I'm committed to doing also. I want every African-American child, family, and worker to have access to great schools, safe communities, and good-paying jobs. I want every disadvantaged child in America to have a choice about where they go to school, so important. I also want to honor and promote the achievements of historically Black colleges and universities throughout our nation. They do a fantastic job. They're not given the credit that they deserve, and they're going to start getting that credit. In order to help African Americans thrive, we're working very hard to make sure that every child can grow up in a safe community and have access to high-paying jobs. We've lost a lot of our best jobs to other countries, and this has hurt the African American community very badly. This week I met with manufacturing CEOs. We're going to be working to bring back those jobs, and I mean really good-paying jobs. I'll be talking more about these issues in my joint session address to Congress and to all Americans next Tuesday evening. I hope you will be watching. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.